having an amazing week. I'm actually out here in Sarasota with our esteemed guest that we're going to have on in a little bit. But why don't we get our cameras on? Why don't we start with some wins, get the energy going? And Eric, what about you? What's good this week, bud?
Eric Gullickson or Eric M?
I don't think Eric M is on yet.
Okay, I didn't see. All right. What's good with me? Well, our business is doing really well. That's been a blessing. It's been fantastic. We're ramping things up, and I just started paper trading again yesterday. Now that it's cooling down, and I'm 2 days up, 2 days in a row. So I'm winning and getting out. And I taught my daughter how to do it. And last week she won 5 days in a row with taking no losses. She was up $3,200 in a week on paper. So,
wow, that's amazing. That's an amazing skill to teach. How old is your daughter?
She's 21.
Very cool. I love it.
Yeah. So my goal is to be able to teach my kids how to live in this mindset, right? And also how to earn money with grace and ease. So
I love it. I love it. Well, feel free to bring her to the Thinking and Results, if she wants to get into the content for sure. It's good to see you guys there last night. Michael, what about you, bud? What's a good win? You just came back from a big speaking event, yeah?
Yep. I spoke at the 100 Millionaires Summit, and my big win was that it was on the power of partnerships. And my best partner is right here. She's hiding. But I just put into the WhatsApp. I called her up on stage, and the two of us spoke on stage, and it was well received. So she's amazing, and it was great. It was awesome. Big win.
I love it. Yeah, you guys are a beacon to follow for sure. I love it.
Yeah.
Len, what about you? What's a good win?
My win is that I'm taking time to today's a very special day. I'm taking time to spend lunch with an old surgeon friend of mine. I learned a lesson from losing my other friend not too long ago. And I'm the guy that stands on that stage, whether it's for the bench project or for our talks. And I'm the guy that talks about time and how valuable it is. And I wasn't doing a day about it until we turned the corner and went a little more spiritual here. And then I heard myself saying, what are you doing? So today I'm actually sawing off the afternoon to have lunch with an old surgeon friend. So that's a big win.
Oh, I love that. That's huge. That's what it's really all about too, is the spirit, intellect, and body. And it's so easy for us here to get caught up in the activity part of it and forget about the connection. So I love that. So true. Love it. Awesome. Mr. Weedo, would you like to guide us in the mastermind principles if I pull them up?
Absolutely. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this blessed day and for allowing us to come together in a spirit of harmony to mastermind for the benefit of all of our mastermind members, our families, and for the good of mankind. We ask that you bless this mastermind group today and every day forward. We release ourselves to the mastermind because we are strong when we have others to help us. We believe the combined intelligence of the mastermind creates a wisdom far beyond our own. We understand that we will more easily create positive results in our life when we are open to looking at ourselves, our challenges, and opportunities from another's point of view. We decide to release our desire totally in trust to the mastermind and God, and we are open to accepting new possibilities. We forgive ourselves for mistakes we have made. We also forgive others who have wronged us in the past so we can move forward into the future with a clean slate. We ask God and our mastermind family to hear what we really want, our goals, our dreams, and our desires, and we hear our mastermind partners supporting us in our fulfillment. We know, relax, and accept, believing that the working power of the mastermind through God will respond to our every need. We are grateful knowing this is so. Dedication and covenant. We now have a covenant in which it is agreed that the masterminds to supply us with an abundance of all things necessary to live a success-filled and happy life. We dedicate ourselves to be of maximum service to the world and our fellow human beings. to live in a manner that will set the highest example for others to follow, and to remain an open channel of God's will. We go forth with a spirit of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy.
Thank you, my brother. Much appreciated, much appreciated. And before we move forward, I just want to remind you guys, in Elite 100, you have access to all things. And I saw Eric and Len and some others on the Thinking and Results last night, which was awesome. We had a really good mastermind session in the content. So feel free to join us on Monday nights. I know we're all busy, but it is something you guys have access to. And quite a few have just kind of hit the reset button, and you're going back through Thinking and Results. And as we know here, we're all studying the science of getting rich. Probably next week, we'll dig back into that as we mastermind forward with spirit and mindset, as well as community and business. So I have the distinct pleasure to introduce a dear friend of mine back here. Him and I have become really, really close, more like brothers. We're colleagues and friends, and in business together. He's my attorney in all things business and in life. Probably the best M&A attorney I know. But they're coming aboard here today. He's going to introduce his business partner, colleague.
Yeah, colleague.
All the above, whatever. But Chris has a really big firm in Texas, and they're a full service firm. So I'm going to hand it over to Chris to introduce his colleague. And Anthony, do you need screen share?
Let me kick this off before we give
Yes.
Anthony screen share. Hey guys, how are you? Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. So I'm new to this group, the Elite 100, but I am not new to the Matrix. I've been a part of the Matrix for probably a little over a year now. Went through Thinking and Results, was in Inner Circle, and funny story. So Brian and I are sitting at Board of Advisors, and which was the first mastermind that I ever joined, right? Because I read Think and Grow Rich, and it was like told you about masterminds and I should join masterminds. And I like Googled it and was like, what's this elusive thing? And there's none of them in my area, and nothing that I could see that like resembled anything like in the book Think and Grow Rich. And eventually, I guess, putting it out in the universe, one of my clients, I'm sitting at lunch and he starts with the content a little bit, right? Just enough where I could be like, oh yeah, you're into this, huh? So like I started talking to him, and he's like told me about Board of Advisors, a few other things. And I'll tell you, that group is not the Think and Grow Rich masterminds, right? It's a little different. But it's funny because the first person that I sat next to, a little bit catty corner, was Brian. And I was like, hey, how are you? Introduced myself. And he's like, well, this is what I do. And I was like, oh shit, that's kind of what I was looking for, right? So it's funny how that works. And I'm sitting here now. So a little bit about me, and then I want to introduce you to Anthony. So I'm a business lawyer and entrepreneur. My first career was in real estate. I actually started and sold a company before going to law school. Like, I'm not pretending it's a big exit. It wasn't. It was like a small 6-figure exit, but it was enough to pay for law school. And I was, in my early 20s, which was pretty cool too. The law firm that I developed was part and parcel because I went through the whole system in big law. So I went to law school, was like top of my class, law review, all those like credentials that you think are important. And I worked for this prestigious firm, international firm, ended up making partner in 7 years, which is a pretty short period of time. And that's when I realized that what am I doing? Like, I'm like kind of miserable. This isn't the full path forward that I want for myself. But all along the way, and I had great quality work, working with like Fortune 500 companies and really great clients, and really cut my teeth on great law. I thought about what big law was doing right and what it was doing wrong. And I can go into a lot of the distinctions and how I made my firm different. But short end of it is, I've created a boutique firm that brings in former big law attorneys, former business people, former in-house attorneys with what I view as really great experience, that really understand their clients, that aren't just lawyers that want to write memos for the sake of writing memos. To us, that's stupid. We want to help business people, we want to help entrepreneurs, we want to help businesses with what is practical. We provide the same level of experience that you would get if you went to New York to some big firm and paid over $1,000 an hour. you're getting the same people, you're just not getting the fancy offices. So like if you want to fly to Manhattan and go meet in a downtown office in a marble laid conference room, I don't have that. I started a virtual firm. I started a firm with very low overhead because my goal was to put more money in the lawyer's pocket for every hour that they actually contribute, and to pass savings on to the client simultaneously. So that, in my mind, is a win-win for both the client and for the attorney. Part of it is an attorney and a better quality of life for them and more of a work-life satisfaction. I wouldn't say balance, because a lot of us are very busy. I might be busier now than I ever have been. I just don't feel like I'm busy at all, right? I'm just in flow on all of it. So no attorney knows everything. And if you're dealing with an attorney that's like, I do everything, like I would be a little concerned about that, right? I'm pretty diverse, but mostly in business. Now, I don't know tax. I don't do tax. A lot of our clients wanted more asset protection strategies and tax saving strategies. And so I met Anthony along the way, and I was like, hey man, join the firm. These are things that our clients, that people within my community would like. And so I brought Anthony in today to provide information to you guys, because I think it's particularly relevant for structuring how things are done and maybe doing it in a more efficient way, and maybe saving some money in taxes along the way. So Anthony is a tax attorney. He has a finance background. He understands business. He's very savvy, and he put together a presentation for you today, guys. And that's my give to the group.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Anthony, I think I gave you a screen, so you should be good to go.
Good deal. Nice to meet everybody, and thank you for having me. So really, thanks again, Chris, for the introduction. And, the reason why I'm doing this, I grew up single mother, not rich, very, very poor. I got out worked for JP Morgan for a little bit. I saw these big corporations taking advantage of the tax code, all of this stuff. And I thought, how come I can't do this? And, who's servicing these small businesses and family offices? So really, that's why I went to law school, to kind of focus on that target area and take advantage of the tax code, just like these big corporations can, and help small businesses do the same. So, why do you plan? Just like these big businesses, you want to protect your wealth. You want to minimize tax liability. You want to ensure your family legacy and achieve business success. So Chris and I put together 5 different levels, really, for business owners, and think of these levels as a starting point. And then you plug in, where you're at, and we grow upon that package. So first level we've got is an operating company, a family management company, and a holding company. And this is kind of how it looks. So your operational company, this is where your business is. This is where you're receiving income, active income. We want to keep this separate from your personal assets, because if you were to get in a lawsuit, whatever you're doing in your business, those risks that carry with owning the company, you don't want that to mix with your personal assets. We have a holding company here for passive assets, so like real estate, investments, things like that. Again, this is just to separate risk and not mix with your operational business or your personal assets as well. And then we got a family management company. Family management company really is for those with kids, minor kids in particular. There's a way that you can actually put them on your payroll and pay 0% in taxes and get a deduction at your business level. You can pay them up to the standard deduction amount as long as they're performing services. and get a deduction at your business level while they pick up that income at 0%. And, you know, they can use it to fund a Roth IRA. You probably heard this. You can use it to pay for their private school, their everyday lives, you know, any activities that they're doing. Instead of paying at a high, you know, 37% rate, you can actually pay for that stuff at a 0% rate if you put them on the payroll and pay for that. So our next level is the same thing as level 1, but we're going to put a revocable living trust. And really the benefit of the revocable living trust is to avoid probate. In Texas, where we're at, probate's pretty simple, but it does take time, and you do have to publish assets in the public record. Some states like California, the Northeast states, stuff like that, actually have a probate tax. So, you know, if you're in one of those states, you definitely want a revocable trust to avoid that tax. And it can be as high as 5% of your total estate. And the way this looks, have the same structure, but we're going to have the revocable trust owning each of these companies, and also any other assets in your personal name. So some common mistakes that people do when they have a revocable trust is they'll set it up, they'll pay all these fees, and then they won't fund it. So they go out, buy a car, buy a house, something like that. It's not titled in the trust name, so they end up having to go to probate anyways. So the next level is family partnership. I really like family partnerships because they're very flexible. They've been around since the 1800s, and there's a lot of unique things you can do that you can't do in other entities. They provide asset protection if you structure it right. They're very flexible using the partnership structure. You can shift income, so not just to your minor kids, but also your adult kids, parents, anyone who you might help support. Just like I said, using your 0% dollars to pay for your kids' stuff. If you're helping support a parent or an adult kid, you can use their tax bracket to pay for their living versus your higher tax bracket. And so you can reduce your tax bill and create more family efficiency on the tax level. Also, a big benefit is limited partnerships can also avoid self-employment tax on the distributions. And a properly structured family partnership can give you privacy that other businesses can't. The way this looks, we've got our revocable trust, again, owning everything, and that's just to avoid probate. We've got our family management company to pay your minor kids. Then you got your family partnership over here, which actually is 2 entities. There's a general partner. The general partner is that entity that makes all the decisions, but it also carries all the risk. So if something bad were to happen, this general partner here, which I use a corporation, has all that risk and liability. So it doesn't pierce through to your individual assets. Then we have the family partnership here, which is the hold your assets. It holds LLCs, and then it also holds non-tortious assets, so cash, stocks that are publicly traded, any type of marketable security. You're not going to get sued for owning Google stock, so it's okay to own it in the FLP, but anything that might carry any type of litigation risk, we want that to be in an LLC that's owned by your LP here. And then another benefit too of having this operational company inside the FLP is from a reporting standpoint, it's a lot more private. You don't actually have to file a tax return for the LLCs that are owned by your FLP. It gets all netted up onto the LP's return, and there's line items there. So from a data standpoint, going to the IRS, you're producing a lot less data that gives them less to kind of look at. It provides less red flags, and you're only giving them what you actually need to give them and nothing additional. Now we keep all the records. So if you're ever in an audit, thing like that, you can produce those records. But just on the tax return, it's very vanilla, and it doesn't really give anything to stop and look at and raise a red flag. So the next level, we're adding 2 documents. One is the medical reimbursement plan, and the other is a control agreement. Medical reimbursement plan, what that does, it allows you to deduct your out-of-pocket health and wellness expenses. So typically the way people can deduct medical expenses is they have to go to their Schedule A on their 1040. And to do that, you have to have over 7.5% of those medical expenses to deduct that very first dollar. So if you're earning $100,000, you have to have $7,501 to deduct that first dollar there. The medical reimbursement plan allows you to deduct from the very first dollar. And that's just through the corporate structure. The control agreement, what that does, it's like your last will and testament for your company. So it's going to name who do you want to be on your board when you pass, but also if you're incapacitated. So if you get in a car wreck, you get in a coma, who's going to run your business? Have you decided that? And then it also can make up for when do your kids or your other family members step in, and how to make distributions and provide for them while either you're out of commission or you passed along. Then the next level we have is just adding either irrevocable trust or ILIT, which is irrevocable life insurance trust. This package really, and the irrevocable trust, these are for people who are at the estate limit. So right now it's 24 million. And 2025 is supposed to drop down to 10 million for married couples. If you're over that amount, whenever you pass, any dollar over it's going to get hit by a 40% tax. So using the irrevocable trust or the ILIT to put life insurance proceeds gets those assets out of your estate and avoids that 40% tax if you fund it and you live within 3 years after funding it. So we also offer some ancillary packages as well. I always recommend having a tax planning meeting with a tax professional at least once a year. And you really want to do that, one, to make sure you're compliant, get a tax estimate, and then also before the end of the year, you do a tax planning meeting to see how you can mitigate your tax liability before the year ends. If you're trying to plan after the year's ended, you're really already too late, because you can only go back and capture expenses. So, you really want to be strategic. October, November, December, you want to have those meetings with your advisors at least once a year. But, as much as you can, really be strategic. If anything changes in your life, always meet with them. So, you can make sure you're being as efficient and protected as possible. We've talked about paying your kids efficiently. There's a couple different ways you can do it, just depending on if they're a minor or an adult. Gifting, if you have an estate tax problem, you can do annual gifting and also lifetime gifting to try to avoid that estate tax, get assets out of your estate, and let them grow while you're still living out of your estate. We also do family foundations. So, if you are charitable, there is a tax efficient way to give, and not like most people give. But also, if you pass and you have a taxable estate, you can leave something to your family foundation, create a legacy of giving, and employ your children, grandkids on that foundation. We also do chief legal officer meetings once a month, where we can meet, have a 30-minute conversation, talk about things that you might need legal advice for, and then help you in the right direction. We talked about the control agreement, medical reimbursement plan, and then we also offer the irrevocable trust. So Chris and I put this together. He wants to offer a 25% discount to anybody in the Elite 100, just reach out to the firm. We can schedule a meeting. I like to review all your personal data, business data. We come up with a proposal, and then, we go from there. That's all I have. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, thanks, Anthony. Thanks for that. So do you guys have any questions? Otherwise, I've got some questions. But I want questions from you guys, because I know the answers to the questions, maybe. Okay, so if I had a business, okay, Ara.
Thanks. So, couple of questions. The FLP, when you're putting LLCs underneath it, and they all combine and report on one form or one entity, you're also opening up and kind of destroying the idea of an LLC, because now the liability goes to the entire group, not just one LLC.
No, that's not right. So the LLC, as long as you maintain separate bank accounts, separate corporate records, you follow all the formalities, it's still its own entity. It's just has a different owner. So instead of you owning it or partners owning it 100%, the FLP owns it. So the ownership doesn't matter for that liability protection. It's, are you following the corporate formalities?
So what he talked about was consolidating the tax return, right? He's just rolling up all the individual reporting from the subs into the top, into a holding company essentially, and consolidating the reporting. That's not going to break corporate formalities. The entities are still separate.
Okay, just be careful and blue states. They have broken there are judges who will break the LLC, because as long as it's not reported separately, they will commingle the entities and they call them one entity. So I'm just, a friend of mine went through it and he got nailed. So
yeah, the only time I've heard of that is if they are commingling, they're not respecting each entity as a separate.
No, what I meant by commingle, I'm sorry, you're right. They do hold them separately, but then when they report together under one investment company, that's when he got screwed. But maybe it's different, or maybe he did something wrong. I don't know.
That's good information, and it could have been, there might have been other things that your friend didn't share with you. So what I like to say about piercing the corporate veil or alter ego or any of those things, it's like a soup or a stew, right? You just kind of keep adding different ingredients, and then it tastes like alter ego. But there's not like one ingredient that you put in that spells alter ego. It's usually a whole like bunch of factors together that the judge looks at, weighs, balances, like, oh, how does that taste? Yeah, it tastes like chili to me. Let's pierce the veil. So were probably some other things there in addition to the fact that they were rolling up the financials.
Right. And finally, Chris, how do you do your pricing? Is it, I know it's 5 different packages, or is it if one person has 2 companies versus someone else has 15 companies, you price it differently, obviously, and then how does that work?
One thing I want to say, guys, I've been using Chris now since we've known each other, and when he's talking about, big firm representation at sort of mid-level prices, that in itself is going to be a discount to probably if you guys are dealing with big firms. But then you can answer the rest of what he said there.
Sure. And he was asking, so what and I don't want to go over prices. I honestly didn't want it to be a sales pitch. I want it to be informative. If you guys want to follow up, that's great. But those packages were based on flat fee pricing. But we would really have to get in and kind of see, how many companies are you dealing with? That could alter some of the pricing. Sometimes it gets so complex with some people that like we just need to do hourly and go through estimates on what it's going to take. Anthony has a pretty good, and I found with estate planning, getting people to like return a questionnaire or form is like next to impossible. And so I like how he does his asset protection, because he just asked for the people's tax returns. He just says, just send me your tax returns. And so he looks at the tax returns and backs into what the plan should be based on that, which involves very little input from the client until you're ready to kind of discuss. And so it's nice from that perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah. And our really, like I said, the packages are kind of like a starting point, and then we look at what you have and we plug it into, you know, whichever level that you want to be at.
Okay. Thank you. I'll reach out.
What other questions you guys have? Anything popping up?
How old does my kid need to be to employ them at my business?
So it depends on what kind of services they provide. So I'm here in Gatlinburg, Tennessee right now on an annual meeting, and I have my nephew who's 3 years old. And while we're here, we're going to be shooting some content for social media, things like that. He's actually going to participate. He's 3 years old. He's providing services, so I can pay him for it. So really, starting from the day they're born, as long as they're providing age-appropriate services, you can pay them. Yeah, licking stamps, right? Or shredding
envelope.
paper.
Yeah. Well, social media is the easiest thing, guys. It's pretty easy to show like the marketing attempt from any kind of a social media clip as long as it relates. And we had Heaven's 21st birthday. We rented a jet for $65K, and we had a film crew on board. We had my team, and you know, we had a blast, and we just did a bunch of social media stuff, filmed her birthday, got her a really nice birthday video montage, and it was illegal. You know, it was legal to write that off because we actually used it for social media. So some of it is just thinking about not just not a ploy, but actually like how can your kids help in marketing, advertising, social media, things of that nature. And also it teaches them at a young age about how this world works, right? About things you can do at a young age to earning income at 10 years old. You know, you see kids 10, 12 years old have YouTube channels with 1 million followers making $50K a month. This stuff happens. So it's a neat way to get them exposed to entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And one thing I do love, I love finding out how to make something a business expense. You know, almost anything can be a business expense under the appropriate circumstances. So you really got to think first, how can this be a business expense? And then add your personal after that, right? You can still get a personal benefit as long as you have that business expense and that purpose behind it.
Now, a lot of you guys might be doing that, paying your children already, and maybe for acting services and things like that, and that's fine. You know, what I like what Anthony does with his clients is it's papering that up some. Like I almost remember the instance where I didn't get it wasn't a full-blown audit, but you know, they start like small, right, with the IRS before they just open you up. And they sent me a letter, and it was because one of my companies was performing services for another company. And so they just didn't like that it was intercompany deduction. And they literally like asked to see all the paperwork. And of course it was some accountant, right, like a year out of accounting school working for the IRS that just like didn't understand that that's like normal to have intercompany expenses. But that's who I was dealing with. So luckily I had everything pretty well documented. I did a contract, right? So it was there like between, so it looked more like arm's length rather than just like this inside deal. And I produced the contract, I produced the invoices that I had prepared, anticipating that something like that would happen. So, you know, paying your children, especially like, you know, a 6-month-old or a 3-month-year-old might raise like a flag with the IRS. But if you have that entity set up that's set up to pay the children, you have an agreement like a talent agreement or something else saying, I'm going to pay you for these services. When the IRS sends it to you, you're like, here you go. And you have your account submitted to the IRS and the inquiry ends. And then you're not dealing hopefully with this like full blown audit. It's a waste of time and money.
Yeah, Chris, you actually bring a really good point. That's what Chris is helping me with. A lot of us have structures and different things, but what he said about making sure it's papered up properly, a lot of people probably have things that the IRS can poke through, and these guys would be a good way to look through with a fine-tooth comb and shore up the armor and remove any voids. So one thing I want to ask both of you guys, I mean, this is your hot seat as well. Thanks for providing all the value. What are you guys looking for? How can we help you? Who's your ideal clients?
So Anthony might have somewhat of a different answer. I suspect his ideal client answer would be something closer to people getting close to the exemption. That would definitely trigger some needs for some tax avoidance strategies. But people that have assets, want to preserve assets, it's great to make money. It's amazing how little thought is given to protecting the money that we make that, can go poof, unfortunately, sometimes. My ideal customer, what I've really formed the firm around are, smaller and mid-sized businesses. We do work with large companies too. And in those instances, my clients are in-house attorneys that manage legal spends and control legal spend for companies. And we do work with, so if you know in-house attorneys anywhere, that is a good connection for me. Otherwise, just, smaller businesses, high net worth individuals. Like I said, I'm a business person and I just like business and I like helping business people and just being around them and working with them. So it's just something that I enjoy. I also would like to meet new attorneys. I also, and I'm not really here today on this, but there will come times that I'll need different resources from you guys. Like Michael's been a resource. Like we talk to each other on the title company front because, I know he's in that business. I have a title company too. I'm trying to grow that business. I'm in real estate too. So I have investments. I do real estate. I broker businesses. So if anyone's looking to buy and sell businesses, I've got a team that works on that. So kind of me is like everything business, real estate, and somewhat like financial services kind of related too. I just started a new law firm. It's called Texas Estate and Probate Lawyers. So what I did was, a lot of what we do is not off a shelf. It's custom made. And so it's really hard to come up with pricing, like flat fee pricing on things. So I made a menu about a year ago of all the services that we offer. And there were a fair amount of flat fee prices in real estate and estate planning and probate. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do estate planning and probate. And I'm only going to do not what we're talking to you guys about right now. Just like really simple, get your will done, medical power of attorney. My goal is to provide real attorney representation to the middle class where they might turn to a legal Zoom and end up selecting a product that they don't understand and never having any attorney representation, but also being more transparent and more easier to deal with than a traditional law firm. So I'm like in between the boutique estate planning probate firm and the legal Zoom firm. I'm in the middle, price wise and service wise. Well, service wise, I should be just like a law firm. So I've just released that firm, and I may lean on you guys. I'm not there yet, but resources on like marketing funnels. This is a B2C play where the firm, what I've been talking to you about now is very B2B. And most of what I've done in the past is B2B, but I know some of you guys are marketers, you're B2C, you're good at marketing, building funnels. So luckily I know a lot of you guys, and I'll go out individually and ask you for help in different areas and lean on you as a resource. I don't really have anything to share like today as like a hot seat pressing thing matter, but I threw out a lot out there. And, if you guys think there's any introductions you want to make, looks like Nelson's already raising his hands on something.
I have a quick question for you. Can you talk a little bit more? Why are in-house counsel for the B2B side? Why are in-house counsel good relationships at companies, and what types of companies? I'm assuming the United States. Tell me a little bit more about the.
Yeah, sure. And we do deals internationally too. But yeah, United States is still by large like the best legal market in the world. It's the most developed. People spend the most. It's well respected. Lawyers in the United States their caliber is, you can't even compete with them compared to international attorneys. So you're a marketer, Nelson, right? You're in some, you understand it. So if a company's large enough to have a full-time seat CMO, then the company is large enough to start hiring advertising agencies to work with on large projects. They'll probably handle some of the marketing in-house. They'll have maybe some internal marketing people, but like a big, like, hey, we're going to do the Colin Kaepernick, like Nike thing. Like they're going to use some outside ad agency to do a thing like that. So it's the same thing in the legal world. So if you're an oil and gas company and you have 50 attorneys at your company, there are things that you're going to use outside counsel with. You're going to bring them in on a big transaction. You're going to bring them in on litigation. You're going to bring them in on other things, and they have the resources to do it. So for them, our firm is a major discount compared to what they're used to paying. So
you have a
that's why
huge value proposition to offer those
value
firms.
proposition for them, and they would just like, they don't care.
What industries are your kind of focus for that model in particular?
We're industry agnostic. So oil and gas companies, obviously, because we have a big presence in Houston, but I've done tech, transportation. I've worked with medical groups, large veterinary companies, dentists. It's one of the things I love about what I do is I get to understand so many different industries. The hotel space, Nelson, that's what I was telling you. I know some hotel operators. Like I'm all over the board in different industries. I'll tell you, no cannabis. I don't have any cannabis experience. So there are some things I don't industries, but by large, financial services, I've represented so many banks, can't count anymore.
Okay, cool. That helps. We should have a conversation.
Okay.
Offline after this.
Greg?
Hey, Chris. Hey, Anthony. Of course, as an advisor and licensed fiduciary, it's, a lot of the things that you guys talked about, I agree with and do. It's a great thing it's a great visual, Anthony, that you created. So that was super helpful. So thank you for that. I appreciate the time and effort that was put into that. As far as, I guess I need to have a conversation with both Chris and Anthony in regards to some of the things that I'm doing, because I get a lot of questions in regards to taxation, legal entity setup, et cetera, based on the hedge funds that I'm creating. So I think that's something that could be super useful in terms of just, because I get a lot of family structure, family businesses and offices that I'm dealing with just as a byproduct of that. So it's great to have that resource. So I appreciate it's not really a question as much, but I am a fan of paying kids with 5 kids. Definitely a fan of that, and I love the structure. Yeah, so I'd love to just elevate the conversation for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to talk, Greg, and I enjoyed hanging out with you in Chicago.
Absolutely, love it.
Yeah, let's roll on a call with me, you, and Anthony. Just whenever you're available.
Okay, sounds good. I'll shoot you guys an email, or I'll shoot you an email and involve Anthony too. That works out.
Cool, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I really feel bringing Chris into the elite and with his firm is a huge win for all of us at the elite. It's a void that we had, and a lot of us are doing all kinds of different business deals and stuff that we might not know the finer points. So it's a huge win for us, for these guys to come aboard. Anybody else? Advice, connections, questions? Oh, good. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for giving us the overview. That's really cool to see it in the 5 different tiers and how it builds out. And I got some ideas myself where I need some work, and hopefully you guys get some good value out of that. As Chris will be in the portal, as well as Anthony, and you guys will have full access. So thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Be well, and God bless. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.